What's up guys, welcome to Daily Dose of Reddit. This is your host, Zach, and today's subreddit is r/MaliciousCompliance. This story is called, "You Want a Free Ride? Fine, I'll take you to Mexico." In 2018, I lived in Southern California while I was finishing up graduate school. Uber was more popular than ever, and given how spread out California is in general, was an easy side hustle to shuttle people back and forth. However, I only did it for a little while because I'm not really the most patient person, and eventually got tired of people's BS and attitudes. One of the common tactics for customers looking to screw a driver was to cancel their rides in the middle of the trip to avoid paying the fare. They would often say how they did it accidentally and then ask me if I could just finish the trip since we were basically there anyway. This happened to me 3 times. The first 2 times I pulled over and told them to get out of my car, to which they complied, albeit they called me several names and threatened to kill me. The third time is the subject of this post. It was about 4:30 in the afternoon on a Tuesday when I decided to log on and catch some fares. Most people go into the office on Tuesdays and Thursdays and are looking to get rides home between 4 to 5 p.m. to beat the traffic. At this point, I should mention that I was living in San Diego. If you know the area, you'd know that many people work in the city and live in the outer areas. Chula Vista, Imperial Beach, Escondido, Pacific Beach, because it's cheaper. The day of the event, oh yes, it was an event. I picked up a middle-aged girl who was a student at the local community college downtown. Although she was in community college, I could tell she had money by the way she dressed and where she was going, La Jolla. She gets in my car and starts to make conversation with me. I'm driving through town, and as I'm about to get on the highway, I hear the cancellation ding. I pull over to a parking lot and let her know that she canceled the ride and I could not drive her until she rebooked it. She gave me the "it was an accident" excuse. I told her not a problem and to just rebook the route. Well, at this point, all those people I told you about earlier had just gotten off of work, and we were in what I like to call the power hour of maximum surge pricing. La Jolla is like 25 to 40 minutes from downtown San Diego, depending on traffic. I looked and the trip would have cost her $70. She told me that she wasn't going to pay that. I said fine, and I asked that she exit my vehicle. She refused and told me to take her home like I was her chauffeur. At this point, I was pissed and wouldn't have even done it even if she gave me $100 cash. I didn't really need the money. I asked her politely again. She refused. I had never really gotten to this point before. The other 2 people were guys, and I would have had no qualms about yanking their asses out by force and beating them in the middle of the highway. However, that wouldn't have been a good look in this situation. I thought about going to the police, given we were like 3 blocks from the headquarters, but I wanted her to feel the burn. Cue malicious compliance. I asked her if she wanted a free ride. She suddenly perked up and said, "I knew you'd come around. You are such a nice guy." I said, "Buckle up," and we got on Interstate 5. Here's the part where I tell you that San Diego is 16 miles from the Mexican border. I also keep my passport in my glove compartment because I did volunteer work in Rosarito every so often. We were about 4 minutes into the ride when she asked where we were going. I turned around and told her, "I'm going to Tijuana, and I'm glad you could join me. I hope you brought your passport." At first, she didn't think I was serious, but by exit 4, she started to panic. I told her she was welcome to get out at any time, but she needed to make a decision soon because after we passed exit 1, there was no turning back. I also told her that I wasn't taking her back. Well, she got the message and pleaded for me to pull over. I pulled over and dropped her off at the outlet mall in San Ysidro at the border. Just for feces and laughter, I checked the Uber rate from the mall to La Jolla, and the cheapest rate was $87 for a pool ride. I didn't make any money that night, but that was the richest experience I had while being a rideshare driver. I stopped about 1 month later and sold my car. Edit 1 for those concerned that I was going to kidnap this chick. I communicated with both Uber support and a few of my friends to let them know she would not get out of my car after being asked repeatedly prior to driving towards the border. I covered my bases. Okay, that girl is stupid. Incredibly stupid. When you're refusing to get out of a dude's car and he's going towards the Mexican border, at that point you're relying solely on the fact that you did not just get into a serial killer's car and you unleashed his fury or whatever the hell. I don't know words. Alright, this story's called History Teacher Says We Can Get Missing Assignments Waived at the End of the Term If We Score Well Enough on the Final. Challenge accepted. This was many years ago when I was in high school, but it is still one of my proudest academic coups. Backstory: I was a gifted kid in an IB, or International Baccalaureate program. I also had undiagnosed ADHD and tested well, but didn't consistently complete homework, especially if it was busy work. I'm in IB history class my sophomore year. We get assigned pages upon pages of reading and notes for homework every night, and the notes are the most tedious BS. There's a really specific format we have to use that involves splitting the page in half, writing a fact from the text on one side, a couple of sentences of analysis of that fact on the other, and 2 to 3 sentences summarizing everything you've written at the bottom of the page. We also had quotas for how many pages of notes we had to do. I don't remember the exact ratio because I never ever hit it, but it was like a 40-page reading needed 20 pages of notes. They took forever. There often weren't actually enough key facts to analyze, and everyone BS'd the heck out of them to hit their page count. They were also the first thing on the chopping block if we had too much homework, which we always did. And we would get graded down for not hitting quota, not following format, or poor quality content. Everyone hated them with a passion, especially me. Our teacher got sick of people BSing their notes, complaining about their notes, or just not turning them in at all, which happened more often than not. So she announced at the beginning of the new term that anyone who misses a notes assignment would get an incomplete instead of a 0, so it wouldn't affect your grade. And if you did well on the final, any missing assignments would be waived. But if we didn't do well, they would become 0s and our grade would drop. She intended this to just be temporary grace for the students so they could afford to miss an assignment here and there and not ruin their GPA. But she was not prepared for the unintended consequences I was about to inflict. This announcement was absolute music to my ears. You see, not only were our notes busy work, they were pointless busy work because all the material from the reading would be covered on the PowerPoint in class the next day. So I would always just pay attention and take notes in class, only do some of my homework, ace the final because I had still learned the material, and because homework was only 35% of the overall grade, I'd still usually scrape a B in the class, which was fine by me. So naturally, when I hear we don't have to do notes, I accept the heck out of that challenge. I decided right then and there that I would be doing no history homework for the entire term, and bask in my newfound liberation from hours of BS. About halfway through the term, my teacher comes up to me and the convo goes something like this. A teacher with a Valley Girl voice. She was only 24 and very immature. Okay. OP, I noticed that you haven't turned in any notes at all yet this term. I'm kinda concerned about that. Well, you said if we did well on the final, we would get our notes waived. Well, I mean, yeah, but if you don't do well, you're gonna lose a huge chunk of your grade. Okay, and? Bothered, she says, I mean, you should really turn some notes so that doesn't happen. It's okay, I'm good. Teacher, really bothered. Are you seriously planning on just not doing any notes all term? Yep, because they'll be waived anyway when I do well on the final. Getting condescending now. Okay, well, don't blame me when your grade goes down. Yeah, can I get back to work now? I proceed to stick to my word and not do any notes assignments all term. Final comes around, it's our typical format, 120 minutes to write 2 essays chosen from 3 prompts. I could have crushed any of them, but I picked the 2 easiest for me and got writing. Finished the first one about Columbus's problematic historiography and realized it only filled 1 piece of notebook paper front and back, single-spaced. but I had said everything I needed to fulfill the prompt. Cool, on to the next one. Don't remember the topic, but it too was clear and concise, taking up only a sheet and a half. I was the first one done, not unusual for me, I often hyper-focused on essay tests, and walked up to turn it in. The teacher thought I had a question. I informed her I was done. Her eyebrows shot through the roof. She asked if I was sure. I said yes, left the class, and went and enjoyed my early lunch. It's next week and we get our graded finals back. She stiffly marches up to my desk and slams my test papers down. The longer essay got a 98. The page-long one about Columbus got 100. She muttered something sarcastic about, "Well, I guess that little gamble paid off for you, huh?" "Yep, just like I said it would," says I. She was fuming as she walked away. She had been so hoping to catch me in a big-ass gotcha. But as it was, I ended up getting the highest score in the class. She had to waive every single notes assignment, and I ended up with an A for the term. You know what? Honestly, good on that teacher. You might not agree with me, but she was willing to change up what she did for the sake of her students. And honestly, while she should have been mature and, appreciated that her student did well, regardless of, if that made her right or wrong about something, but I can understand her being at least a little bit upset because that would mean that she's been doing something wrong as a teacher and maybe as a new teacher because she was a younger teacher. That isn't the best thing for your confidence. So here's hoping she adjusted her curriculum based on, what happened here. Alright, this story's called The Tale of 56 Yards of Rope. I hope this is allowed. In my sophomore year of college, I found a job working at a high-end flea market type thing in a large tourist area by my school. It was a very cute, curated selection of vendors who made various products from jewelry to t-shirts to prints you can hang on your wall. It was all expensive as hell. And I got a job working with a posh older woman who owns her own clothing line, which we sold at this market. The clothes were nice, hand-printed, nice fabric, etc. I made $13 an hour plus commission, and it was a pretty easy job. Eventually, I proved my worth, and she had me do assistant work for her, which included picking up clothing from our printers and printing labels and delivering stock to our 2 locations. She also became increasingly more neurotic, and I soon found out she was notorious for being a horrible person who everyone in the market despises. She burns bridges to the ground when she's done with you. Her attitude became worse towards me. She made me come in during a blizzard that caused a state of emergency, and I was beginning to realize her general mistreatment of me wasn't worth this money. Now, every 3 months, the market requires a refresh of the booths and everyone closes down for a day and remodels their individual booths. They are small. I'm talking a 6.5 by 6.5 foot square that we have to work with. She was known for hanging items from branches attached to the ceiling with rope. She also had a beautifully made chandelier that was about 2 feet wide, which was also hung by rope. Part of my duty as her assistant for the week was to buy rope. I'm in the owner's $7,000 a month studio apartment with the assistant manager and an equally neurotic dog, and this convo ensued over the phone while my boss was on vacation. "OP, we need the rope for the refresh. We need to hang 4 branches and the chandelier." I checked the measurements and it says the distance from the ceiling to the branches is about 4 feet. They are hung from the exposed pipe on the already low ceiling. So if we double the rope for each branch, plus the chandelier, which will get another 4 feet, I say we at least get 85 feet to be safe so we have enough extra if we need more. That seems like far too little. 4 times 2 is 8. 8 feet on either side of the branch is 16. 16 feet times 4 branches is 64, plus another 4 for the chandelier. I think I've done this long enough to know more than you. We need 85 yards. 85 yards is 255 feet of rope. There is 3 feet in a yard. Are you sure you don't mean 85 feet? I know what a freaking yard is. Your measurements are off. I'll send you the money to pick up 85 yards. The assistant manager calms me down after I hang up and calls the owner herself for clarification and sends her a photo of the measurements and clarifies that the owner is aware of the difference between a foot and a yard. Owner doubles down and calls us idiots. Hangs up again. At this point, my assistant manager tells me to just get the 85 feet and call it a day. But I was so angry that I insisted I show her that she's wrong. Assistant manager reluctantly agrees. I get $20 and go to Home Depot for the rope. Of course, the max they have in the spool I saw was 50 feet. I need freaking 255. I explain to the worker and he gets me several spools, which cost me $30 each. Yet again, I send a photo to my boss and explain I need more money and make sure she's aware she's buying this much rope. Again, she sees me with 5 spools of rope and gives me the okay along with the extra money. Assistant manager and I are in charge of supervising the guys we hired to help us assemble the new furniture we bought for our booth. Unsurprisingly, the furniture is too large for the booth because she didn't check the measurements, so we had to cut a cabinet in half. As it comes together, it's time to put up the branches with the rope. Again. Unsurprisingly, we only use a little over 1 spool of rope. We now have 4 extra spools we don't need. The guys building everything call my boss to ask what to do with the rest of the rope, and she loses it. Starts screaming that I was too irresponsible and should have gotten less and should have never listened to her, and I scammed her out of $100 to buy rope we didn't need. All the while, my assistant manager and I are standing there slack-jawed as the contractors get an earful on speaker. Everyone else, refreshing their stations, are staring at us, and I have tears in my eyes and 4 spools of rope. I also luckily have multiple texts, including the photo I sent her of the spools as proof that I checked with her. I refused to return it and said she can figure it out when she gets back from vacation. Surprisingly, she didn't fire me. She ended up returning the rope but never apologized. A few months later, I put in my 2 weeks because I got an internship and I sent her a cordial email thanking her for everything. In response, she sent me a bulleted list of all the reasons why she was about to fire me anyway, and how she was glad I quit before she could do so. Number 5 on the list? Buying too much rope. Okay, you know what? That's kind of sad. Independent business owners should really have systems in place that holds them accountable when, the accountability needs to be held. Because that's just sad and ridiculous that someone is getting bullied like that. Anyway, we all know what those goth girls always are saying about rope. Can never have too much of it, am I right? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell to never miss an episode.